Yeah. What's good, YouTube? We're here for episode 23. Like always, I'm going to get started playing a couple songs. This first one, at the request of Sil, who's here with me tonight. This is
Yo,
Wind Knocker by Sewerperson, produced by Jabari on the beat. An oldie, but still a goodie. Enjoy.
Baby, could you wait a minute? I need time. She told she know her clothes are finished, I don't mind. She told me her skin inside a candlelight. She touched on my body and it give me love. Young Bendy, I ate my dreams, I'm waking up at night. Yo, I promise you I've been working, I would take what's mine. Young, when you shit my life, I swear I almost cried. So I'm not trying to kite and make you do it twice. Yeah, all I ever wanted was to do it right. All I can ever feel the way they do inside. Rip out my heart and put it on ice. I know it might kill me, but I don't mind. Passes in my body make it alright. Deep inside the underground, I'm seasoned here. Got her garden rose on my heat here. Could you take my body back to a different yeah? Heart attack, I think I was left for the dead. I just need someone to talk to instead. I know you can see it, but you can't feel the effect. It feels horrible. Yeah, all I ever wanted was to do it right. All I can ever feel the way they do inside. Rip out my heart and put it on ice. I know it might kill me, but I don't mind. Red leaves keep falling down. I thought you would say you always be around. Kerosene kiss upon my wedding house. Babe, I need you here and now. Lay me down, stop all my flesh end. Hear that sound, I go let the living dead. Split it out, I just got it better out. Never done, she ripped through our broken back. There's a recuperate, killing mission. Babe, I wish you never had a con of this. I reach my elixir and I take a sip. One inside this water, it might be parachute. In the store outside of places where it's triple digit. Let me say my piece and it's an intermission. Once I changed my ways, I wasn't scared of you. I should never have listened when you told me to. Yeah, all I ever wanted was to do it right. All I can ever feel the way they do inside. Rip out my heart and put it on ice. I know it might kill me, but I don't mind.
Good choice.
such a good song, bro.
Setting the vibes. Setting the vibes.
Gotta get the mood right, bro.
This next song that I'm playing, I'm sure you all know that Miles recently released a Christmas compilation slash album slash, Forget Me Not 2. This is In the Dirt, Under the Porch, produced by our friend Matthew. Shout out to Matthew for yet another placement. This one's disgusting, bro. Like, this one's crazy.
Baby, wake
The beat
up.
is so fucking grungy. So good.
I could die right now, Clem. I'm just happy.
We could reset, we just gotta learn how. Just start with 1 foot, send the bodies in the ground. In every lifetime, every fate plays out.
God damn.
Just have the
we
winds
go.
outside. In time, what you scared of? I'm the earth. See my mind first. You friend my shirt. Spat my name out. Here I stand over.
Absolute madness.
One last time. Can't sleep through this night. No, you thought I'd die. Revenge clouds my mind, but I'm still right here. Gleam in my eyes, and I've walked all night. Push past these nights just to to watch you cry. Feeling synthetic, a botched anesthetic. So I killed the medic and watched him die. They don't haunt you if you let it, but I'm good at forgetting. His ghosting me vetted to take your life. And what's done here's prophetic, and my blood yearns for letting this passage poetic that I sing all night. How many times before you get it? I was born with this leverage. My hands are magnetic to your contact. What you scared of? I'm the earth. Seed my mind first. Rip my shirt and spat my name out. Here I stand over you and her. One last time.
Please let me keep this memory. Just this one.
First, I just want to say that I appreciate everybody who came out to the Christmas listening party. All four hosts were in attendance. Sil, Heber, Aqua, we all appreciate it. I didn't put the reel out like I was hoping to. Sorry. But for those of you who were there, you'll saw that we recorded little videos just to thank the community. If you were there, then you were there and you know. If you weren't there, you're more than welcome to go back and listen to the playlist that was put together. Shout out to Sil for having the playlist ready for me. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you guys. 2025 was phenomenal for the podcast. It was kind of an idea that not came on a whim, but like I was kind of unsure of until I really like posted the flyer on my old Instagram and it got a little bit of steam. It was kind of cool to see people excited to have a place to talk about the music again. People have done podcasts like this in the past, but they just become so much to handle and so much to manage before they get big enough to where it's like you can have multiple people and all this. So I just wanted to take this time to say I appreciate the three other guys who are doing this podcast with me, because not all of the weight falls on my shoulders. Like, yeah, I might be a shot caller or whatever, but at the same time, everybody contributes to it. If I ask a question in the chat, the boys are there to help me out. So I just wanted to start and say thanks for a good 2025. This is the first episode of 2026. Kind of weird to be talking about it right now on December 28th when we're pre-recording it. But I know y'all watching on the 1st on New Year's hopefully will enjoy the episode. Hopefully have had a good New Year's Day, and I hope that 2026 brings everybody, not just us, not just the podcast, not just Sewerperson. I hope it brings everybody nothing but peace and positivity. But tonight, this shit right here, this shit
Go
right
straight in
here.
there.
Tonight is episode 23 of Conversations in the Sewer. This is the podcast from the people who built the community for those who live in it. Tonight, like I said, I got the homie Sil with me. If you're familiar with him, you know that he's one of the most analytical minds when it comes to the underground scene. He can pick apart songs unlike no other. I'm going to be trying to keep up with him on this song that inspired us both within 6 minutes of it dropping. I can literally go back in the group chat and show y'all how within 6 minutes of this song dropping, Sil and I were already sending notes to each other. Before we get into the breakdown, like always, a couple things that I want to address. Artist submissions. If you make music, if your friends make music, if your uncle used to make music, if your late grandpa used to make saxophone music and you have a saxophone collection, bro, submit music, for real. Submit music. I have this idea for Sewerfest eventually A bunch of artists just put a bunch of playlists together, do live performances through Discord if you want, but we just do a festival on Discord, hopefully eventually in real life too, off of the music that's submitted. We can only do that if you guys are submitting music. Second, other land submissions. This man above me was very kind to write up a whole thread on basically an idea that we're trying to form around making stories on the Other Lands universe that we were introduced to. There's a bunch of prompts that you can choose from to spark your story up. Sil did a fantastic job with breaking it down for everybody. Whether you have a silly idea or a serious idea, put something through there, whether it's 4 sentences or 4 pages. We need something to talk about for that episode because I think it would be cool. It not just for, we do these community submissions. How did this make you feel? How to blah, 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 blah. But creative writing is different, and it's picking different parts of your brain. So even if it's something that you're not typically interested in, it's worth giving it a shot. Even if you think it's goofy, submit it. We all need a good laugh, and I'm not saying that we're gonna laugh at you, but if you think it's goofy and funny, bro, like, let's do this. This is supposed to be a positive thing for everybody. It's supposed to just get you more interactive, more different insight into the music. Who knows, you might fall in love with the album again trying to write a story on it. Third, before we get into the song, Sil came up with a good question of the week because we haven't had one. So this week's question of the week, number 23, is going to be, what is a song lyric that stuck with you and has applied to your life? Once again, what is a song lyric that stuck with you and has applied to your life? It can be a Sewerperson lyric, a Kennedy lyric, Garden, Lil Baby, Tupac, Biggie, Whitney Houston, anybody, literally anybody. You could put Miley Cyrus, Wrecking Ball there if you wanted to. Submit your answers using /confess in the Discord that's in the middle of the top of the screen right there, or there will be a post on Instagram after the episode goes live as a VOD. There will be a post that you can submit your answers on there too. Either comment them on the Instagram post or use /confess in any channel of the Sewerperson Discord. Now, before we move on to the song, Sil, do you have anything else to say? I think I touched base on a lot.
Yeah, I think we covered almost everything.
Not a fucking breath.
I just want to say, in regards to the other on submissions, big thank you to Urban for submitting 2 different things now. Urban's absolutely killing that. I'm excited to read them. And if you don't want to read the whole post, at the bottom of the post there is like the prompts, and then in the replies to the post there's a little TLDR that really just, yeah, you don't have to read all that for everyone who doesn't like reading, just 2 little lines.
In other words, stop being fucking lazy and read. Sorry guys, but be for real. We only have a couple submissions and we've been preaching about it for a couple weeks now. I'm about to make a call to action and make everybody. This is going to be one of the questions of the weeks. This is going to be a question of the week for freaking 2 weeks in a row. We're going to end the season trying to get submissions for this, dead ass, bro. I don't know. We got to do something big. I feel like Sil's idea could be huge. We just need the participation for it. So get your punk ass up and go submit.
Yeah, and just kind of remember, this is your way of contributing to the music that you love so much, especially with an album like Overlands. Why would you not want to share how you view the universe? It's perfect, Everyone loves this album, so show us how much you love it.
We pretty much all gave our 2 cents on the album. We just never really wrote a full fleshed out short story on it. So I don't know, it's a good way to pick people's brains, see how people think. And like I said, you might fall in love with the music all over again, and you might discover it a different way because you were listening to it to write a story on it. So fuck it. Without further ado, I'm going to play 170 Yards, produced by Eric Godlow. And we're going to pick it apart line by line, note for note. And I hope you all enjoy the conversation. I hope you all enjoy the music. I hope you all enjoyed the podcast so far. I hope you all enjoyed your New Year's. And let's kick some butt.
Let's go. Yeah, I swear you take out the glass and light up the part. You pick up my brain, you pick out the pain and fragile parts and parts. How could I look at the bright side in the dark? You feeling my frame, you touching my face, and worry becomes malart. So where is the best spot to die when life gets hard? Tap tap, just feeling my brain, your answers steeped in slight remarks. How can I look at the bright side in the dark? You push it to swallow my back, and I'm falling 170 yards. But I get you back in the worst way. You see my worst face every time you look outside the yard. Your blood thick as toothpaste. How is the view of my skull open up like a birthday card? I think you raising that asshole bar. Just wait for a condo and luxury car. Just firebomb you while you drive to the bars. Fireworks show in the back of the car. I will rip you apart and I'm not even high right now. I'll meet you on Fifth, let's just meet up and die right now. Yeah, the building is empty, there's nowhere to hide right now. Meet me up top, fuck it, let's both jump down. There's 48 floors, 58 floors, you pass me by right now. I'm going fast, I'm sitting on his back, not laying on skateboards out. He got his brain pushed out, fuck it all, I got my feet blown out. Even his shoes flew out, they say that's how you know that he's dead right now. Let's go. Yeah, I swear you take out the glass, you light up the part. You pick up my brain, you pick out the pain and fragile parts and parts. How could I look at the bright side in the dark? You feeling my frame, you touching my face, and worry becomes malart. So where is the best spot to die when life gets hard? Tap tap, just feeling my brain, your answers steeped in slight remarks. And how can I look at the bright side in the dark? You push it to swallow my back, and I'm falling 170 yards.
Once you get used to it, you can kill friends as easily as anyone else.
Let me kick that.
Funk.
I'm gonna fix your camera real quick.
Word.
It's gonna be fucked up at the end when we bring the bot back. Sil, come back. Guess what, guys? Sil's back. Back like he never left.
I'm here. Let's go.
Because he never left us, guys. Sil's never leaving us. He's not allowed to leave us.
Being held hostage, help me, help me.
His soul is conversations in the sewers until the end of time.
True.
He signed a contract like Scientologists. All right, that's enough.
Fucking conspiracies into the sewer, bro.
All right, so there is an intro to the song. I do not have anything wrote for it, so Sil, I believe you may have something wrote.
So I have two little things for the intro. First the sample. Initially when I wrote my stuff, you know, I took the sample at face value for, you know, you have never seen so deep. And so for that I put, you know, the one line intro sample starts the song by preemptively framing it in a way that insinuates that despite the depth we've seen of Miles in other more emotional tracks, this is a much more intimate depth to Miles, and we're seeing a new approach to relationships and how he will kind of continue to evolve that approach to relationships. And that's something I'll touch on a lot more as we go through it. However, as I was just talking to Deva about before we started, I heard that I heard the sample again, and I realized that it has the potential to actually be saying you have never seen true evil, which kind of changes the meaning to me to mean something more like you will never know how truly evil someone can be or what their true colors are like until they're presented with an opportunity that they can deem worthy of wronging you over. And I think if that's what the sample is actually saying, it kind of changes the way my initial thoughts of how this song was framed to be more of like a cautious tale about how when you do delve into love, you have to really be careful about what parts you pick and choose for the other person to see. And no matter how hard you choose to love someone, there's always going to be that part of you that knows there is things that you should keep to yourself just in case things do go awry.
Damn.
And then following on from that, right after the intro sample, we have the echoing two lines from the chorus, which at first glance does seem quite inconsequential, but when you really take into account the way that the vocals are mixed for these lines in the intro specifically, you're able to look at them at large rather than just reading between the lines and interpreting them that way. The vocal mix for the intro iterations of these lines is one we've seen more than a few times in the discography as a whole, and when he uses this like robotic animatronic style voice, it promotes this disconnect and really emphasizes pain and struggle and kind of the divide between Miles's humanity and Miles's yearning. And here we see it show a dissonance this time that helps to set the stage for in a further way that the sample does. And it's that small final layer of preparation before everything starts and everything really starts to build this image.
Definitely. Wow. I didn't even look at it like that. Like I said, I didn't really have anything wrote for the intro, so that's funny that you mentioned that. And it is. Wow, he really uses that a lot though.
Yeah, he does, and it's always for a very specific thing. Like we'll see it for the disconnect and the divide in techno animism.
Mm-hmm.
And even as recent as Forget Me Not To, Marionette, he uses that animatronic voice that, and he's kind of like this puppet, and the other person's this puppet master, and he's just being pulled along on strings.
Yeah.
And it's this vocal style is always used for that kind of thing, and I think it's really cool to notice kind of the ways and the times that he kind of picks and chooses to do that. It's always very, very specific and intent, and I love that.
Wow. All right. So moving on from the intro, that was very insightful. Holy shit. There's much more to that than I could have ever picked apart. But the first line, I have something wrote just for this let's go. That let's go, I feel like is more than just, an ad lib because he said it twice in the intro. It's more than like an ad lib. It's more like he's leading you to a step off of the ledge. It's not an ad lib. It's not just hype. It's the start of the momentum. Once the phrase "Let's go" hits, the song doesn't really pause again. It's committed to the motion, and that kind of the and the commitment to motion kind of mirrors the idea of falling. So like once gravity takes over, there's no rewinding. And if you heard me back on the Labyrinth interview where I did a little segment on this, I tied this song to Alan Watts's idea of falling into love. So I feel like this Let's Go is the start of that fall.
Yeah, I didn't even have anything written for that, but I think when you put it like that, it's a really good way of looking at it, especially when it's kind of like the third echo,
Mm-hmm.
like that starts off the verse. It's like it's almost like he's I kind of just thought of this now, but it's like he's psyching himself up for an inevitable fall
Yeah.
almost, and I think that's Wow.
and it's much clearer than the ones that are in the intro, so it's intentional that we heard that "let's go" more stronger. He's like, all right, let's go, all right, let's go into this fall. Oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, I never even thought. Wow.
I i just like, I don't know, I thought there was, originally I remember I thought it was just an ad lib because I wrote this a little while ago. I wrote the first half of this a little while ago and then revisited this past week. But that "let's go" just kind of like skipped by, and then I heard it again, the whole song, and I was like, nah, like that's said in the same take where he says, "I swear you take off the glasses and light up the park." Like that's something where he wanted us to hear it, not layered in the background over a different effect or something. He said, "All right, let's go into this trip. Let me take you on this trip real quick. Let's let's start this fall." Um, which leads you into this, "I swear you take off the glasses and light up the park," which I see as framing his subject, the other person, who this so far, what I see as a letter, um, he's framing this other person as illuminating. And it's kind of almost cinematic. He's taking off glasses suggests there's intimacy or vulnerability, because people with glasses don't tend to take them off in the general public. And then you're seeing someone clearly after you take the glasses off. And lighting up the park kind of gives them power over the environment. Um, it seems like it's like a young love, early love energy, and kind of like, to me, symbolizes the moment before a fall or the fall feels dangerous.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I feel like no, wow, this is kind of like blown my thing out of the water that I had written for this, but I feel like yeah, no, like it really does show like such an interesting power dynamic between the two of them. I mean, like you saying like it shows power over the environment, kind of like that's making me think more about like this disconnect that we hear in the intro from the vocal mixing that we hear like that, and then how I was relating that to like the way he does it in Marionette. It's another kind of showcase of yeah, like this is always used in different times of like power dynamics and
Mm-hmm.
divides. So here him kind of like confirming that with your interpretation, it's like
Wow.
it, yeah, it really just shows kind of the imbalance in the situation and how I touch on this a lot later as we go further down. But I'll mention it now. We kind of noticed the this whole this whole song is very one sided.
Yes.
It's it's a lot of him, you know, setting things up and waiting for the result, but the result never comes because he's the only one, he's the only one really getting into it.
He's the only one
It
committed to the motion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. Uh, it's crazy because I looked at this like this line really differently, and I kind of saw this through two different lights, and where like the first way I saw it was like a much more kind of like intimate light, and it's kind of we're getting the preset stage for before the disillusionment wears off in the verse, and where he's like, you know, the moment you stopped hiding your face from the world around you kind of brightens,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows this very kind of romantic atmosphere to build up the eventual hurt that does come later, and it's it's kind of like creating this separation between the way he viewed it then versus the way he views it now, and knowing the inevitably this does get destroyed when we come to the verse, it really kind of adds this fucked up juxtaposition where you don't know which part he's clinging more to. And then kind of to add to that, you could also view this more as, when you enter the room, everything in my life makes sense. It's more romanticism, but I feel like we hear a lot in like the older parts of the discography, and even dating back to Ninetales, he bases a lot of the things in his life that make sense on who is with him and how the person he's with can make him feel, and kind of the depth to his reality that they add.
Right.
But there's also the flip to that kind of links more to like how I feel now after like going back to the intro sample, where the second way to interpret this is this much more apathetic and disconnected expression, where he's saying like, "Oh, I see your true colors now," and instead of it being like a everything makes sense when you walk in the room, it's now I see just how terrible you are. Everything makes sense as to why things are the way they are, and that's where we start to see like the disillusionment and betrayal start like forming prematurely, as opposed to it coming straight away in the verse. But I think it could really fall either way, and having having the opportunity to lean between it either being this romantic idea, but then there's this creeping part of him where he is getting disillusioned and he's still worried and he knows he's still fighting with himself over it internally. Yeah, I think it all builds up this narrative like just from the first line, really.
Damn. God. So building on that is the next line. Uh, you pick at my brain, you pick out the pain in fragile porcelain parts. Um, for anybody who knows anything about porcelain, it's typically used like higher end, beautiful, and showcaseably fragile, like dishes, dolls, very antique, beautiful stuff. So porcelain's implying the beauty and the fragility. I think he's saying that this person knows exactly where he's weak. And the love here isn't passive; it's kind of invasive. Um, they just don't notice. They don't just notice pain. They're extracting it bit by bit, piece by piece, and that's where the intimacy is crossing into damage, setting him up for the fall, through the fall.
Yeah, wow. See, I looked at it through like a similar lens. Um, However, I was kind of looking at it more from like a an introspective point of view, where this line seems, to me at least, it seems very sentimental, and it's quite expressive of, despite some sourness, there is also this level of appreciation that before the disrepair and the distrust was forming, you
Mm-hmm.
know, this person was able to handle a lot of the fragility of the recesses of his mind, and subsequently was very mindful of how delicate and volatile his mental and emotional states were prior to like the safety of the relationship. And I think porcelain here, and ringing off sentimentality, is, whenever you think of like porcelain, you think of this like fine china, and there's always like, old people always have like their fine china sets where they're filled with these memories, or they have something attached to them. And so it changes the way he views the relationship to mean something more akin to a fond memory that he's so attached to the good of, that he's afraid to admit the destruction of. And being able to like look at it like that, it's it's like a mixture of the way you viewed it, and him fighting with the idea once again that like the relationship is very, you know there's a lot of weakness on his part,
Yeah.
but until it's being like prior to it being exploited, he was he was comfortable enough to let them nurture that weakness. And now we're seeing, like you said, that invasiveness, where it's being exploited as opposed to nurtured.
Bro's making me rethink my whole fucking every single time. So every single time, bro. You want to lead the next line?
Yeah, so going on from that, we have how could I look at the bright side in the dark? And I think from my perspective, this line starts to speak a lot about the isolation that encompassed him probably before the relationship and prior to entering the relationship. When he was in this solitude, it skewed a lot of the ways in which he viewed the world and himself to a large extent, and it seems to be brutally honest in admitting the fact that prior to this crack in the visage of seclusion that he faced, everything enclosed him and removed any ideas of or conception of freedom from the pit that he was trapped within. I think it speaks to the understanding that there is always a bright side that you can search for, but when you're completely devoid of hope and you're trapped within a limbo that feels like a confined box of reality, the last thing that you're able to do is claw your way towards an exit, and all you can cling to is this idea of survival. And then building on from that, it's it's kind of like in his seclusion, he was waiting for something that felt worth to claw towards. And this here, like this line kind of jumps back to the sentimentality of the previous line where we're like, he's like, yeah, things got bad, but before you they were worse, and no matter how bad things get here, at least you gave me a reason to claw my way to survival.
Okay. Damn, bro. I kind of have a parallel to that. I said that this line's introducing a central contradiction where he's surrounded by someone who lights up the dark, who lights up the park and lights up the dark, but yet he's still in that darkness that was there before. So where you were talking about, he kind of shut himself away and let that damage him. Um, you know, this love, this new experience of love, this vulnerability, it's not fixing anything, it's only complicating it. Especially because he's starting to question things like how is there a bright side when he's still in the dark? Which
Oh yeah.
which leads into the next line. You feel in my frame, you touch on my face, and where he becomes Malark. Where I see this as a display of physical closeness paired with an emotional dismissal. Where he becomes Malark means that his fear kind of gets, joked away. He's brushing it off. This is where the the central foundation of the trust fracture starts. It's an affection. There's affection without emotional safety. There's like, he feels good, but everything's just getting shrugged off at the same time.
Yeah, I think that honestly gave me a new way of looking at the line too, and because when I was looking at this, um, I saw it as quite a sweet line that does speak volumes about the effects that this other person in the relationship had on him, and it
Mm-hmm.
shows that even with the eventual downfall and disrepair of the relationship, when all said and done, even something as simple as a few stray caresses was enough to wash away almost everything like that would petrify him. But looking at it through the lens that you came out of, it shows a lot more of this like one-sidedness where it's like you're feeling my frame, you touch on my face, and you control, like your touch controls how I feel. And so kind of we know we don't see, we don't have any indication here, and we actually never have any indication of how his effect on them is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another layer to that one-sidedness where it's like it's all about the way he's treated and what's done to him, and not how he's treated and how he feels with
Mm-hmm.
the way he's being treated. It's kind of it's this acceptance where he doesn't hate it. He's just happy to still have that contact, that knowledge that he isn't alone here. Where in the song as a whole, it's actually completely isolated. It's
Right.
all him, and it is only him. And I think another really fun and kind of um, interesting part of this line is the worry becomes malark thing, because it's so light-hearted and almost nonchalant in expressing how he feels, as opposed to it being sincere and heartfelt, using malark, which is just like this shortening of the word malarkey, which is like, he's saying like you make all of my feelings and everything I feel and all of my emotions, you make them feel like nonsense. And it adds this childishness and starts to infantilize the way he feels. And it's probably very reminiscent of how innocent and kind of pure the relationship started out, but also it could be a reflection of how at the root of it all he is innocent, but because he's being infantilized through this power dynamic and through the way he's being treated and through the way he's being touched and kind of like molded, the he's not allowed to feel how he truly should feel. It really diminishes a lot of his efforts.
Ugh. Damn. Yo.
Bro, see, you know, it's crazy because before we started that line, I didn't really have much like written, but you saying your thing of the way that you said it really sparked the extra in me, and I was like, yeah, no, like it really adds a lot of that. It's there is when you really look at it through the lens that you're looking at it, and kind of how you're breaking it down, there is such like a giant power dynamic and an imbalance and everything, and I can't believe I missed that, or I can't believe it wasn't like my primary focus, because it really is such a big thing.
Yeah,
Damn.
and how the one side has all of the power and he's experiencing this fall. Just this. I'm seeing, I don't know why and how I drew that together so hard, bro, but like I'm obsessed with this song and tying together Alan Watts' speech on the idea of falling in love, because it's just, I hear it and it just makes sense. There's some things that you just feel right about, bro, and I'm obsessed with this song just being a constant free fall and expressing, maybe it's a letter to somebody that he was with, basically saying like, yo, I just felt like I was drowning and falling the whole time that I was with you,
Yeah.
like
Wow.
experiencing this emotional suicide off of a residential building that's 170 yards tall in Toronto.
Yeah. No. And I think looking at it as a free fall kind of free fall is such a good word, because it kind of shows how kind of, you know like if he was like suiciding, there's no safety net, there's no choice, there's no freedom to do anything.
Mm-mm.
He's very much at the whim of the universe, and
Mm-hmm.
here he's very much at the whim of this other person. So free fall is like a perfect word, and like a perfect like kind of like expression. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Like I said before, I feel like the song doesn't necessarily like resolve itself either. Like we get the chorus, we get the verse, and then it ends. You know, it just ends the same way that it kind of started, without any.
Yeah. Yeah, it just kind of perpetuates itself. It's like, he goes through all this realization, And in the end of the verse, we see that like basically he's effectively killed a part of himself by going through with this, and then it's like, well, fuck it, we're just gonna go and do it again next
Uh,
time.
Literally, fuck it. Because not to skip ahead or anything, but that "Let's Go" that I was talking about, that I wrote about,
Yeah.
that was like, "Let's start the fall." The first time that he said "Let's go," yeah, like a unsure yeah, and then the second time "Let's go" because he knows what's happening. Fuck it, let's go.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
but
Yeah. No. Wow. Holy fuck.
since I'm getting ahead of myself, the next line is, "So where's the best spot to die when life gets hard?" And I feel like this reads like gallows humor, but it's also an escalation in events. The conversation seems like it's gone somewhere that it shouldn't have, like too far, and the line feels like it's tossed out so casually, which is exactly why it's unsettling to me. It's like ideation sneaking into everyday talk. He's There's this constant obsession with, when speaking on these relationships, like the ending of it is dying. The ending of his life, the ending of the relationship, when anything gets hard, is always just the death.
Wow. Yeah. I feel like even looking at it like that, it really, when you say it like that, it really shows the despite me looking at it through this lens of kind of this duality between him seeing the happy side and clinging to that, but also like falling into like the disrepair on the other side. There is kind of this whole thing where, from your perspective and the way you're looking at it, it's so obvious, and it's so hard to kind of ignore just how brutal everything actually comes across. Looking at it as gallows humor, kind of, it's this extra dark layer that, while wasn't missing prior to this, it was less intrusive. It was less
Mm-hmm.
like intent. And so looking at this line like that, as opposed to the way I looked at it, and I'm like, this here is, it's like a noticeable turn of this and souring of the relationship. And it shows how things go from this innocent and happy-go-lucky love and intimacy between the two, to a state that's much less loving and sincere.
Mm-hmm.
And how, at a surface level, it's very much indicative of the fact that something immediately went wrong, and his impulse reaction is to retreat into the comfort of seclusion that he used to feel. And rather than me viewing it as like, oh, like gallows humor, this is, to me, this was him like saying like, oh, like I just want to shrivel up and die, like I'm not emotionally strong enough to deal with this. And so we see him sort of fold back into himself, and wanting to, like, craving that seclusion. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we've all felt it before, where in a relationship we felt something, that we felt like we've done something so wrong, where we're like, oh fuck, I can't believe I've done this. This makes me want to like die. And so here we're seeing that, and because of how heavy-hearted and difficult it is for him to deal with, because he's placed so much importance on this person, and he's put them on this pedestal, and there's such like a difference in the echelons between the two.
Right.
It makes how hard hitting like it is for him much more obvious. But
That's
kind of beyond. Go
that
ahead.
what you just said was backed up by the fact that ad lib right there is "I'm tapped out," because I have a note that says like "I'm tapped out" is showing his emotional exhaustion. It's not a metaphor, it's just the depletion. He's done something, or something has happened where he's just checking out and receding back to that hole, that death.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's like, like, I've already done too much. Well, like, there's nothing I can do to fix this, so I'm just gonna sit, and I'm just gonna accept that this is the way it is now. Like,
Right.
this is my fate, and I'm kind of resigned to that.
Right.
And I went a bit deeper, and I was like, kind of beyond this idea, it really suggests something more serious in which whatever problem occurred between the two of them, once again, it's him like shouldering the blame and the weight entirely. And the fact that he innately chooses this without exploring who is truly at fault
Mm-hmm.
feels so reminiscent of old Sewer, like Nine Tails, all of that. And we see him play the role of this martyr, and he eats the blame for everything, regardless of where the fault truly lies. And we always talk about how in so many songs he feels like he is playing the martyr, and he's referenced himself as being a martyr in so many situations. And so, as always, this is a very intense look at the role he feels he plays when it comes to relationships. And for all intents and purposes, it feels like another glimpse into the honesty that he's able to express now that he's mature enough to look back at relationships and be like, look at them through the lens where it's more analytical and understanding that pedestalizing these people and creating such a large power dynamic gap, or at least letting one form, is so unhealthy, and it always leads to the same cycle that he finds himself in.
Which is only backed up by this next line. I'm spilling my brain, and your answer is steeped in slime remarks. And he's just being honest that they're being evasive. This is the exact emotional imbalance and power struggle that makes the shove, the later coming shove, even more believable. One person's completely exposed, and the other's kind of deflecting and in full control of that exposed person.
Yeah, I mean, I even it's funny that you carried it on because I also carried on from the previous line, because here it's where we see the blame and his martyrdom accumulate, and we're seeing him spill his guts to try and ask questions and seek out answers, because there's this realization, like, I can't always be at fault. There has to be something. There has to be some rhyme or reason. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of being given like this genuine response where where he's able to like work towards something,
Mm-hmm.
it's he's met with this insincerity and sarcasm that, instead of fixing things, it's this extra means of manipulation for the other person, and it makes it feel like the only way for things to conclude in his eyes is for him to just retreat and give up and surrender. And so it's like he's being forced to crumble under this unbearable weight that he cannot escape, no matter how much he tries to fight for it.
Damn.
And then,
Like,
kind of bridging on from that with the next line, we're back to, and how could I look at the bright side in the dark? Where once again we see a reiteration of this line, and in this instance it changes the concern and understanding of how he was prior to the relationship, and uses it in a way that now reflects how those feelings he felt before are now being reinforced by the other party. And rather than steeping himself deep into isolation, he's being infantilized still, which reinstates those feelings that he had previously escaped, and now utilizes them to break, bend, and mold him into something much more malleable and, in essence, more desirable. He's not a partner anymore. This is where we see him being broken down into a puppet.
into a puppet. Yeah. It's funny you use the word reinforce, because I literally, word for word, have this refrain returns reinforcing that this problem hasn't moved. We're just circling the ledge now.
Damn. Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, we were literally like on the same wavelength with that one, bro. Wow.
Straight up. Yeah.
I mean, you heard it here, folks. So the next line, you push at the small of my back, and I'm falling 170 yards. So if you were in that interview with Labyrinth, where I basically went crazy and hijacked the show for 15 minutes, you noticed that a quick Google search. I was like, what's the significance of 170 yards? And I found that that's like one of the most common heights of a Toronto residential tower. So I think that this is the thesis, of course. Literally speaking, it's the shove from that residential tower. It's plausible, familiar, because he's walking around every single day, seeing these towers, and still horrifying. But metaphorically, it's betrayal at the most vulnerable moment, because the small of my back is intimate. It's not like the shove was violent. It's not like somebody slapped you. It's not like you felt somebody push both hands, both palms. This is clearly gentle, and that's what makes it sound so much even more devastating, because that fall, the push leads to the fall, and love turns into gravity.
Yeah, wow. I knew that you would touch on this more, but I didn't realize you'd phrase it like that. That's so beautifully phrased. Holy shit, though. Man.
I had to come with my A game, bro. With Sil, be for
Yeah,
real.
bro, you really did. Damn. I'm shell shocked right now, bro. I'm like, holy fuck. This is, bro, that's how you know this song is serious, bro. When we're both here, we're both here, and I mean, like you said at the beginning, within 6 minutes, we were in that, yeah.
Literally in the group chat sending. I was like, yo, Sil, this blah blah blah, and then he wrote two sentences back, and then I was like, all right, here we go. Literally.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like kind of my approach to this line. Wow, I mean, I feel. I feel like your approach to this line and my approach to this line are kind of like very different, but I feel like with yours having like the backup and kind of the cultural significance that it does have feels very weighted in that direction, and kind of how prevalent and how intentional the ideology is.
Hmm.
Whereas here I was like, the end of the chorus sets up and starts this air of betrayal in time for the verse, and in some sense, it's a ritual humiliation that seems almost cyclical in the context of the narrative of the song. You push at the small of my back. It's very indicative of the intimacy and closeness, which
Facts.
heightens this feeling of emotional assassination, and it feels like a twisted life lesson that everyone hopes that they never have to learn. And I kind of touched a little bit on what you said, and I was like, I know that you would touch on the numerical significance and the cultural significance and what it represents in the real world. But I feel like metaphorically, it nods to the fact that the plunge from the height of intimacy and love to the depths of despair are not that unrealistically far apart in Miles's eyes and in like most people's eyes. Everyone,
Wow.
everyone, when you're in the pit of despair, you look at love as this complete, like, heightened state that's unreachable. But when you're there, you realize just how short the fall is.
How quick it happens too.
Yeah,
How quick it can happen. How quick the cause of it can happen, bro.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow, Sil. Wow.
Bro, it's such an insane line for how kind of, like, short and intentional it is. It's so, like, there's so much to unpack, I feel.
That's why I was so eager to do this breakdown with you too, is because I knew you were gonna take a lot of this and like, oh, take it and form a picture of it, when I'm taking this as like a literal sheet of paper letter to somebody. Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I think I said that in one of our chats too. It literally just feels like a letter saying that I'm falling and I'm still falling. Like I went through all of this and I'm still going through all this. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you definitely said something to do with that, and I remember like I was like because we were talking about like I don't know if it was this line specifically or maybe it was the 48 floors line.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about like how because I said just imagine like how how it would feel to have someone you're so close to and so trusting be the one to push you back into the pit that you've just climbed out of, and then you came with your like the way you looked at it, and I remember just being like, "Wow, fuck yeah!"
That's why
And at
we're
this,
doing this.
yep, hell yeah,
Um, so next line, but I get you back in the worst way. You see my worst face. Um, I wrote that this, of course, is marking a shift into an aftermath fantasy, kind of where he's imagining his retaliation, but it doesn't seem like it's reality in the beginning. It's kind of like the ego scrambling to regain control kind of mid-fall. You know how your life kind of flashes before your eyes and you're like, I could have done this, I should have done that, I'm gonna do this. I think this is kind of where he's starting to experience that because he just got pushed.
yeah, and he's kind of he's scrambling for A, some clarity, and B, something that he can latch onto to break the fall.
Yep.
Something that will shield him from like the reality that is very fast approaching.
Yeah, bro. And I
Yeah.
think there's also a flow switch going into this verse that kind of like the syllables are sped up where his flow speed of my brain, answer to sleep, the sky remarks. How could I look at the bright side? And then he comes back and he's like, I get you back in the worst. Kind of like speeding up as he's falling. The flow is speeding up too. I feel like that's just everything's kind of like funneling into this fall idea for me. I might be obsessed, but at the same time, it just makes sense. Just makes
No,
sense.
it definitely does make sense. And I think when I was looking at the whole the I get you back in the worst way, you see my worst face every time you look outside in the yard. To me these two lines, it's this half-hearted, actually, correction, you know it's an attempt to level the playing field in a way that isn't half-hearted but is instead half full,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because once again, it's, you see my worst face, I get you back. When you look outside in the yard, all you see is me. Everywhere you go, you're going to see me. And kind of looking at it like that, it's like in his eyes, there's such a discrepancy in these power dynamics that for him to feel any shred of, I guess, revenge or reconciliation, his only get back is to haunt their every waking moment. And kind of unbeknownst to him, he's really doing anything but getting back, and he's instead subtly playing into the trap
Yep.
of remaining like firmly wrapped around this person's finger, and it cements his place as a pawn rather than a player in this party of two.
Ooh. Oh, cements his place as a pawn rather than a player in this party of two. God fucking damn it. That was good, Sil.
Thank you, thank
That
you.
was clip worthy. What the fuck? That was good,
I
bro.
remember writing that. I remember writing that. I was like, "Yo, this is kind of fire."
He said I cooked. He said, hold on, let me pop my collar real quick. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one of those moments for real.
I
Um
know.
I mean I didn't have anything wrote for every time you look outside in the yard, so you nailed that one. But moving on, of course, he says that arterial blood thick as toothpaste. Well, I see this, I feel like in every Miles song that's about love and has this idea of the fall or an idea of breaking apart or any kind of um what's the word I'm looking for? A negative action or negative anything happening in the relationship. There's always this one, he's always talking about dying or he's always talking about bleeding. So there's this revisit to the grotesque exaggeration that we see very often in Miles' music. It's not necessarily realism. They're not necessarily bleeding and seeing all of this, but it's emotional gore. It's where he's translating pain into shock imagery to create that image for you on how this feels. Um, yeah.
Damn, that's a bro, that's a crazy way to phrase it. And I feel like you looking at it in terms of his discography and how he uses a lot of emotional gore here it's very different from the way I looked at because I read I read this line and I was like arterial blood thick as toothpaste, like what does that mean? And I couldn't really grasp it because I wasn't really kind of sure of the gravitas that arterial blood held within the human body.
Mm-hmm.
So as I always do, I was like, fuck it, let's do some research. So I went digging and I found out about the significance of arterial blood and its place in the human body. And arterial blood it's the most oxygen rich blood that we have, and it's the blood that flows from the heart through the arteries. And so by that logic here, thick as toothpaste makes it seem like the blood has become more dense and has suffocated and blocked the pathways to the heart, which is essentially killing him at the root by isolating the only thing that keeps him going, both metaphorically and literally. The line being as short as it is lends itself to that same idea of suffocation. And it's like he's being choked out and forced into submission in order to survive and, in some sense, resuscitate the little bit of what's left.
Bro pulled out significance where I thought it. Wow. Holy shit, bro. Wow.
When I was reading that line, I was like, I felt like toothpaste was such like a weird way of phrasing it. But then I was thinking about it, like toothpaste. It's quite a thick substance. There's no there's no room to breathe inside of it's very tightly packed. It is very dense. And so comparing the blood in your veins, the blood leading to your heart, to something so dense
Yeah.
and it doesn't have any room for breathing. It is that kind of idea of suffocation and being completely choked out at the root.
Okay, so you're more analytical, so I'm gonna ask you about this next line because I kind of fumbled for an explanation on it, bro. Kind of came out of left field. It is another kind of gross image, so it's not out
Yeah.
of left field. He's kind of following up, but like, what do you think he meant by "How was the view with my skull opened up like a birthday card"?
See, actually, I have a lot written for this because I've read this and I was like, "Holy fuck, this line is
I ask a
incredible."
question at the perfect time. Then let's go.
Yeah,
That wasn't
bro.
planned. That was not
Yeah,
planned,
that was
chat. I
not planned.
promise.
Not planned at all. No, but this line to me, it speaks a lot. It speaks to a lot of the vulnerability and the exposure about how readily he made himself available for the other person, and in turn, he becomes more of a yearly commodity than a rarity worthy of treasure. And while the line itself reeks of the volatility and sensitivity of an open wound, within itself we can see and understand how exponentially he trivializes himself, his feelings, and his emotions. We compare the imagery of exposure with the frivolity of relating himself to a birthday card, and we're able to see on a very uncomfortable level about how he's able to acknowledge that even under his own scrutinous lens now, much like the other person, it's almost impossible to take any of these things seriously and treat them with any gravitas, albeit for differing reasons, though the conclusion is much the same for either side. It's it's a lot of this, you know, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be
Right.
there year in, year out, and so it doesn't. It loses all meaning.
Wow. I'm happy that I fucking asked, dude. He said a yearly commodity, bro. Damn.
The birthday card is such an incredible image for that, and I think it's I mean I know if you're anything like me, and if the people watching are anything like me, you get a birthday card, and after a couple days you just kind of chuck it out, or if you don't chuck it out, you just chuck it in a drawer and you forget about it,
Forget
and they kind
about
of
it.
just sit there.
Till
Yeah.
next year when you chuck them in the drawer and you're like, damn, I got 5 years of birthday cards that I gotta go through.
Yeah, it's like, wow, I should really look at these at some point,
See
but
if
you
I
never
got any
do.
gift cards left.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you even get gift cards anymore, bro, I'm getting so damn old. Nobody's sending me shit.
No, straight up, bro. I opened a birthday card this year, and it was just happy birthday. I'm like, oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Grandpa. I appreciate it.
Straight up though.
Grandpa, I love you if you see this.
Grandpa, don't kill him. Don't kill him.
That's just why he just sent me a fucking Christmas card, and it was the most plain Christmas card. It just said "Merry Christmas" from Grandpa and Grandma in it. I'm just like, you couldn't write
Yo.
anything like "I love you" or nothing, bro. Like, do y'all not love me
He's
no
like,
more?
he's like, nah, fuck you. You're old enough now.
I'm a yearly commodity, bro.
Straight up, bro. He's like, I'm tired of this. It's been so many years.
Yo, deadass. He said, "Fuck your Walmart gift cards. I'm not giving you $10 no more." Oh my god. All right, all
Fuck,
right,
bro.
all right. Back to the that's staying in, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Um, next lines. I paired these two together. He said, "I think you're raising the asshole bar. All this work for a condo and a luxury car." In this sense, I see that dark humor is cutting through his rage, and he's now aware of how extreme his thoughts kind of sound. It's kind of like he's being said. He's being told that he's raising the asshole bar, and then all of this work for the condo and luxury car. It's kind of grounding the song back to Toronto culture, because when you're in downtown Toronto, all you see are these beautiful big buildings, and you probably, if you're from Toronto, years of effort, ambition, and image just result in emptiness. The skyline becomes symbolic of how hollow success and emptiness, of how hollow success and emotional, uh, uh, of how hollow success feels, and emotionally how much it costs. Damn, why am I fumbling?
You're good. You're good. But no, it's true. Yeah. Wow. Damn. Yeah. I think that holds a lot of cultural significance when you look at it like that, and it probably is very very reflective of the way Toronto culture kind of is. I think, fuck. You've
Everybody
approached
wants.
this from such a good way, bro.
I feel like, as somebody, I'm not like, 'cause I'm not from Toronto, but I'm from a city, and I feel like my city and Toronto are a lot alike. Even though Toronto's literally 100 times bigger than the city that I live in, literally, like, no joke. Um, we kind of have the same lifestyles here. People tuck their heads, work, 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 get the view that they want. Shout out Swain for grinding for your view. If you saw that reel, then but like, that's kind of, I'm not trying to say like Swain's raising the asshole bar, but like, I kind of took what I saw from him and what I know about culture in the cities to like make this. Like, you grind, you grind, you grind for the view. You get to the view. But in this case, the view, the luxury car, this relationship, it's coming at a cost that's, one, I don't think personally, as I sit here, I don't think would be worth it. But Miles puts himself through, like you said earlier, it's cyclical.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Damn. There's so many layers to this cycle. I feel like both metaphorically and culturally, and I feel like they're both very relevant to kind of the ways it pours into his life and his music.
Mm-hmm.
Because even dating back to early Comet, we see a lot of that same kind of showboatiness, where it is a lot of, it is a lot of like him showing out and him talking about all the shit he's doing, and like pulling up to clubs and everything. Wow. Uh, which is crazy. It's crazy different from the way I looked at this line, because I was like, personally, I feel like these two lines are, they show pretty effectively how brazen his decision making is, and how everything he ever pursued or did was with the intention of showing out, making a good impression, and providing. And since those became foundational to the relationship, they lost their importance and became an expectance. Lo- losing their inherent value in the grand scheme of things, which in turn shrunk down the value of his efforts and ended up feeling more harmful to him than healthy for the good of both of them. And this, to say the least, is another example in his discography of the times where he makes it known that he can't escape minimalizing his own value or self-worth into very materialistic things, and how he uses materialism in order to still feel like he's providing enough to make him feel worthy of keeping around. To put it
Oh,
lightly, he does settle for being a keepsake rather than a priority.
wow. Wow. This is gonna be a good watch, bro. You got two not opposite opinions, but
Yeah.
beautiful, bro. Um, damn. All right. So going into the next line, I don't really have nothing. You're blowing me
Um,
away, bro. Fuck. Going into the next line, he says, "I'll just firebomb you while you drive to the bar. It's a fireworks show in the back of the car." This is, I mean, to me, this is pure intrusive thought energy. It's kind of like, something speaking to you, like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this." It's loud, cinematic, and quite unrealistic, honestly. But it kind of mirrors how breakups and how emotional struggles can flood your brain with violent hypotheticals that you'll probably never act on.
yeah,
Hopefully,
absolutely.
hopefully never act
Oh,
on.
yeah, hopefully, please do not commit crime. We do not condone crime.
I mean, if a song like this comes out of it, then no, we don't condone crime.
No, but keep making the music, We'll still listen.
If you happen to do crime and then make a song that don't do crime.
For legal reasons, this is a joke. Don't hurt us.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a podcast host.
We cannot be held responsible for any of your decision
This
making.
is not life advice.
Fuck.
So, your turn.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like the explosive. I feel like the explosive nature of these lines, bro. You fucking me up, bro.
I'm sorry. Man. We're gonna get the YouTube deleted before we can even get to season 2, bro. At this rate, fuck.
Yo, Neil Mohan, don't hurt us, bro.
Who the
We
hell
need
is
this.
who the hell is he?
That's the CEO at the moment. I think Susan stepped down or something, so we just got Neil now.
Neil, I love you, bro. I don't know who Susan is, bro. If Susan's an op, then fuck the ops. But if she ain't an op, then keep me up here, YouTube.
Actually,
All
hey,
right,
bro,
my bad.
we're good people.
My bad, bro. My bad.
But yeah, I feel like the explosive nature of these lines lend themselves both to the somewhat showboat nature, once again, of how he makes his worth known, but it also represents how it takes so much destruction and begging in order for him to feel an ounce of attention and appreciation that's even a fraction of what he gives to her. And in order to break the monotony of being ignored and carried like baggage, and so together with the prior lines, it feels like this duality of all these things I'm doing and all these things I'm buying, they're all for you so that you'll still love me. But look at everything I am doing and everything I have done.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you see it all? I can show you what it looks like when it is gone. And I think a lot of interesting things within these two lines here come from a lot of the aggressive negative use of firebomb, a word that's charged with the same anger that's present throughout this verse so far, and also distress paired with the idea of a fireworks show, which is obviously something that's usually much more positive with its connotations, and it's always usually indicative of a celebration. So here it's almost as though he's celebrating the fact that he's coming to his senses and separating himself from it all, even despite the explosiveness being left in the wake of the relationship.
You actually fucking right with that one. Damn. Wow. On point, bro. What? I agree.
Oh yeah,
I
bro.
know. It doesn't matter if I agree or not, but I agree.
I agree. Bro, you might have to kick off this next line because I got a lot of room for this next line. So this next line's gonna be a big one.
All right, cool. Well, you know, he said, I will rip you apart, and I'm not even high right now. I see this as an important line. I probably don't have nearly as much rope for it as Sil does, but I see that he's pointing out that this rage isn't substance induced or supernatural like we've seen time and time and time and time and time and time and time again in Miles' lyrics. A lot of the time, this rage, this I'm so high I could rip you apart, blah 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 type shit, it comes along with drugs, it comes along with this, but this song feels so raw. Pause. And feels so direct and straightforward that this line is showcasing that pure emotion, that this relationship is now triggering what those drugs or the alter egos used to deal with.
Damn. Yeah. You're so right. And I feel like even despite what I have wrote here, I think another flip to that is that, you know, I'll I will rip you apart. We've seen like we've seen like in Werewolf in London when he uses it in such like a like it is in terms of like drugs and kind of like that substance abuse, but it's also a much more nonchalant use. He always uses this kind of nonchalantly to describe something and equate it to something serious.
Yeah.
And here it's so emotionally charged that that's where a lot of the extra weight does come from now. It's so much more purposeful here, and there's a lot more force to it, and it really adds a lot of gravity to the line. But kind of where I went with this, I kind of started off by saying, like you and I kind of discussed how usually the idea of rip you apart and other variations of it are related to the werewolf, and it's paired with I'm not even high right now, which really does just cement how how much Miles links it to those same songs within the discography. Like it is like him saying I'm not even high right now is confirmation that I'll rip you apart is always commonly linked to like the substance abuse within the werewolf songs and everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really nice subtle nod for him to be like, like he's matured enough to be able to acknowledge that this is how he would use it before, but this is how he's using it now. And so we see this clarity with how he's replaced substance abuse and the negativity that overlapped that large portion of his earlier years now with relationships and the ways in which he does find himself entangled with people. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us, in a lot of sense, his addiction to substances isn't that unlike those. Sorry, in a lot of sense, his addiction to substances isn't unlike his addiction to finding love that works and is mutual. And we've seen firsthand just how much he's matured and worked to better himself on all fronts. But within the context of relationships, he's still yet to break out of that same wheel. He always finds himself back churning the wheel time and time again, finding that the mistakes he's made prior become the mistakes he's making presently.
Mm,
And so by noticing that those two things seem to be being interchanged here,
mm,
and that the werewolf imagery is being used in respect to relationships now, it begs the question of if going into this oncoming year and beyond, we'll see a new duality that blends his inescapable, enfeebling desire to make love work for him with something else equally as mythical as the imagery that comes with the werewolf. And if so, what might that yield? Based off this song and a lot of the other singles that we've seen like within this time frame, like this rifle fires love, and since we last spoke, we'll see how he starts talking about love and how much more of a pragmatist he's becoming as time goes on. And I think that we're seeing like in live real time his understanding of love expand. And similar to how we saw his battle with addiction through his music, I have a feeling that going into next year, we will see a lot more in a similar fashion where we see all these stories of love and how he overcomes these cycles. And going into next year, what I noticed while doing some research on a whim is that on the Chinese calendar, next year is the year of the fire horse, which is symbolic of a great many things. Thematically, the fire horse represents ambition, determination, passion, and a pioneering spirit. With Miles making a note to us specifically that 2026 is going to be a whole other level. He said this himself, almost confirming this link that this new year is going to be something special. Though metaphysically, the Chinese New Year for the fire horse represents something much closer to the idea of the song and my own thoughts, in which it represents the potential for significant shifts and change and clearing up old blocks in life, which is something we're already seeing the framework for here. And
Mhm.
so while it's maybe a bit of an extended reach here, connecting the symbolism of the year that we're going into with everything that we're seeing at the end of this year and everything that Miles has said to us since, it really begs the question of just how different 2026 is going to be of a year musically, and how many new avenues we're going to see him explore, and how much
Bruh.
extra maturity we're going to see.
Holy shit, you just took that into a whole nother level.
Bro, I was saying to you before this, I was like, yeah, just on a whim, I was thinking about the Chinese New Year. I was like, I wonder what the Chinese New Year is. And then I started reading all that, and I was like, this is probably a reach, but there is a world where Miles has thought about this and thought about the symbolism of the Chinese New Year's.
Mm-hmm. Damn, bro. It's all lining up. You know what doesn't line up?
Hit me.
This next line. Before we went live, I tried to Google and make sense of it, because no joke. I'll meet you on 5th. Let's just meet up and die right now. I thought 5th Street, 5th Ave, 5th, there's no building. Okay, the next two lines. The building is empty. There's nowhere to hide right now. There's no empty building, really. No residential 170-yard tall building in Toronto on 5th Ave or 5th Street. So this is where my literal thing starts to fall apart, because there's no actual real life backing to it, but the fact that he adds the specific location adds realism to it, because it's not just like an abstract depiction of despair. It's placing this struggle in a real city grid that's tangible, and there's isolation at the top, the building. There's emotional exposure. Nobody else is there. There's no witnesses, but there's also no escape.
Damn, fuck, it's so good.
I really thought it was literal though. I was like, what the hell is 5th Ave, 5th Street? Couldn't find no high rise. Chat, if you're from Toronto or know anything about Toronto, if there's a 5th Ave, 5th Street, 5th Court, 5th something that I don't know about, that this is actually about, that could be about, let us know, chat. Drop a comment, drop something in the Discord. If you find something that backs me up for looking at this literally, because 5th is capitalized. So it's a street, whether it's street or Ave, that's to be determined, but it's capitalized. It's a place. 5th Square. It could be something. It could be a building. I don't know. I don't know enough, and Google didn't help me too much before we started this. So let me know.
True. Yeah, no, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see if to see if like there's just some hidden Toronto lore that we just don't know about, bro.
Come on, Crody, help me
Like,
out.
bro. True, true. Hey, bro, you nailed it. You nailed it. You got it. You have all the Canadians feeling like, yeah, one of us, man, one of us.
Oh,
Woo!
one of us, one of us.
One of
I'm
uh,
technically
I
just a Southern Canadian, if you think about it. That's what New York City
true.
calls me. Fuck New York
Southern
City.
Canadian. That's crazy.
They don't count my city as part of New York, but whatever, bro.
Damn, that's
Haters.
fucked up. I approached this line like obviously very differently to you, and I touched on how I'll meet you on fifth, and then the line after this kind of start to touch more on the confrontational side of things and how his realization begets more anger and starts to stare the more potent feelings that he's kept bottled up deep within the wellspring. Him saying let's meet up and die right now is a more metaphorical way of him expressing that under the surface he's finally coming to terms with the idea that things have long since been dead, but with the fresh serve of resolve that he's feeling right now, he truly wants to kill things in hopes that it'll revive the parts of him that have died.
Mm-hmm.
And following on in the line after with "there's nowhere to hide right now," it acts as a line, it acts as a definite confirmation that he's not allowing himself to, sorry, that he is allowing himself to embrace reality within that pocket that contains them both. We can see that more of the same reactivity and instantaneous response fueled by his emotions like boiling over. But once more the power dynamic here comes more into play because we see that once again he's the only one making any real effort to show up and try to do something about it. So a lot of the rage and disappointment that sits at the forefront of these lines is completely undermined by the fact that he's the only one making any direct acknowledgement of this. And so from a bird's eye view, this looks almost identical to the only piece on a chessboard with someone watching it unfold for sport.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like when I heard this line, I really was just like imagining like this whole kind of like from the perspective of it's this like toy city, and this other person's kind of just like moving miles around the city doing whatever they want him to do. And so here it's like it's very much a direct reflection of that, like he's just being dragged back and forth between places, and he's trying to fight something that he's the only one fighting.
Wow. Fight something that he's the only one fighting. That's where this next line kind of um contradicts not just what you just said with that line, not to like be like but also contradicts my idea and my theory of tying this towards the idea of a fall, because one, Alan Watts always seems like it makes it seem the way when I listen to the speech and everything, it makes it seem so one-sided, like one party falls. It's a fall. But meet me up top, fuck it, let's both jump down, reframes the fall as a mutual thing. It reframes this love as a shared surrender, which we don't typically hear, one, in Miles' music, and two, in love songs at all. It's usually very polarized to one side or not. So falling together, this line is showing Miles and the other falling together, not just romantically, but also destructively. And I think it's funny how I just think it's funny how this song goes kind of like back and forth through perspectives too. If you noticed, it seems like it's shifting from a narrator's perspective to Miles' perspective to in the next 3 4 lines to the other's perspective back to Miles' perspective when the a chorus comes back around. But I think from this line, from after this line, when 48 floors starts, I think from that line until the chorus starts again, I feel like that's from somebody else's perspective. We can get more into that as that goes on, as we get to those lines, but I just had to throw that in there because I couldn't hold it any longer.
Yeah, it's funny that you did throw that in there because I also do touch upon like a similar kind of idea too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a little bit different from how you framed it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I definitely talk about that and kind of the way in which the last few lines play out. Um, you only talked about the first line here with "Meet me up top, fuck it, let's both jump down." So I'll touch on the line after this when you touch on this. But
Okay.
kind of here with this line, we start to see once more he's bringing this confrontation to bear arms so that he can come to some sort of conclusion finally. And it's like he's aiming to recoup his losses and just reconcile a lot of the truths that he's been lying to himself about for so long. And still, even after it all, he's out here begging, like, like, here, you come up here, let's both jump down, fuck it, meet me here. But once again, he is still the only one at the top of this building when he gets there. You know, he could be, from his perspective, he's shouting like, I'm here from the top of this building, and the only thing he hears back is his own echoes. The only resolution he finds is his own words coming back to him.
Is that narrative perspective the internal thing that he's meeting there? Is that Sil?
I would say so.
These last
Yeah.
couple lines, because it's like I'm going fast, but I stand on his back and I land on him skateboard style. Like, you guys jump together, but now you're out of body and standing on him, so you're not going to be as damaged as him. So is this other even an actual other, or is it the feeling that he's been dealing with? So
That's what I was touching on. Yeah. Like the only two people jumping from that building is himself and this other part of himself.
and this other part of
Really.
himself, there's no.
Yeah. And so in turn with that, you have to wonder how much of this relationship was even real. You begin to start questioning him whether, if this relationship was with another person, or if this whole time this relationship is him battling with himself and the ideas of the relationships, and kind of this internal war he feels between himself, past and present.
What if this song is a letter to his old self that he pushed at the small of the back and watched fall for 170 yards. He went through hell just to glow up. Bro,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
if,
Oh.
because we've been hearing a lot of these songs about, like, after breaking this down with you and hearing your perspective, I'm seeing this song not just as like a rebirth, but like, especially with these last couple lines where it comes from multiple different perspectives. Like, we haven't even gotten into them, and I'm thinking about it. Like, there's so much going on, bro. Like, it just
Yeah.
really seems like there's two separate parts of him in the song. Whereas I thought he was writing a letter to his ex, to a former, and now it seems like it's a internal monologue kind of. This kind of feels like a whole internal battle where he's kind of killing off his old self.
Yeah, and it's kind of why it's kind of another reason why I was touching on, in a couple of the lines prior, where I was talking about like the Chinese New Year thing, and like the framework for like clearing up old roadblocks. This is very symbolic of that.
Yeah.
Like he is really just starting to remove the parts of his past and build anew. And so, I mean, he said it himself. Like I said, like we're going to start seeing a completely whole new side.
Wow. That song is about reconstruction or something, bro. Holy shit. Um, Let me touch on this next line so you can talk about it. The
Oh yeah.
48 floors, 58 floors, they're passing me by right now. This is where the free fall pacing comes into play. The floors are passing like memories. They're numbers instead of emotions. And I tied that to dissociation instead of emotions. And it's the dissociation coming mid drop, kind of like your life flashing before your eyes. You're watching yourself go down, counting yourself down, anticipating the slap.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like I had something very similar, but I kind of phrased it in a different way, which kind of in my head, um, I read a lot of the significance of like 48 floors and 58 floors, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
how like the other word for floors is stories. So here, this this word, like this line to me, it really struck gold because I'm like I said to you in the group chat initially when we were talking about it, like there was that knee jerk reaction where it was like, like, oh, like my life's passing me by. But when you think about floors and the height of buildings being referred to as stories, we changed the lines instead. We've got 48 stories, 58 stories. They're all
Mm-hmm.
passing me by right now. And so we're getting this image of all of not only all of his memories, but all of the past versions of himself fleeting by him and flashing before his eyes, which is very symbolic of all the times in which he's had to reinvent parts of himself and all the eras that he's gone through that have ended and he's become something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is very representative of that. And you'll notice once more he says they passing by me right now. They passing me by right now, which is another further admission that the only person up top is him and himself. The only people that are the only things passing by him are all the versions of himself.
Which is kind of funny leading into the next line because he switches the perspective. I'm going
Yeah.
fast, but I stand on his back and I land on him skateboard style. So what I had wrote is different than what I'm thinking now because I said it's absurd physics. This is the brain scrambling to rewrite his fall to survive it and to win it. But at this point, with you saying he's passing all of the memories, all the past versions of himself, he then is taking his current version of himself and placing himself on top of that body that's falling to try to brace himself for the fall. All of the past versions are following, and he fall. All of the past versions are falling past him, and he's using them as a cushion. He stands on their back and tries to land on them to prepare for the ramp.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I had for this line something very very similar because I had very much like the same line of thought where it's like, in his mind, like this line reads much as if he's urging himself to kill the parts of himself that are so eagerly remaining attached to everything that once was in his past, whether that be like the relationship that he's in now or past relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and even other things he's been addicted to as a whole. This is another iteration of him completely destroying the parts of himself that he's tried to escape but
Mm-hmm.
still cling on by some small thread. And so here he's doing everything he can to impulsively start destroying those parts and start freeing himself even more. And as a result, there is that noticeable detachment in the pronouns that are used, and how in this line, well, sorry, the pronouns that are used in this line and the ones that come afterwards, where it's, like you said, I stand on his back. There's no admission of who the his or him is, but when you put it in context of everything, it stands to reason that it is these parts of himself.
Wow. Huh. Huh. You want to lead the next one?
Yeah, so I kind of grouped like these last lines together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I said that these lines start to continue the disconnect and struggle between him fighting his past and his present. And it also starts to show the public perception and how it's visible the over time as more parts of himself died to more than just him, but to
Mm-hmm.
also those around him. And so though these lines are quite short, they do wonders to show just how reactive Miles is and the ways in which his internal struggles become external, and how everything surrounding this topic coalesces into this war within himself that conveniently never seems to subside, and instead acts as a continuous damaging force in the aftermath. And though this damage sometimes dissipates, but also sometimes spreads. It becomes a lot of the driving force within the music, and it's where we see him branch through different avenues of his storytelling, and a lot of the ways he expresses himself in songs, while they might have similar kind of imagery,
Mm-hmm.
they all stand to serve as a different part of him, and they're every song is to some extent an extension of him, and
Facts.
you can kind of look at it in this way that it's his way of rewriting things.
Damn. So
Bro. Yeah, no. When I was writing up for this song, I realized just how actually incredible it was. It was even better than than either of us could have anticipated. I feel too.
no dead ass. Seriously. Only thing I really had. I don't think I had anything for those last lines actually. Now I'm reading. I said everything really already. I jumped to
Or,
saying it.
I
Yeah.
mean, that just means
I,
that means we got all.
I have something for the hook though, and the significance in it why repeating because his his hooks repeating always have some sort of some sort of something.
Yeah,
And like I said earlier, um, this one bringing this hook back around and leaving on the 770 yards mark is kind of an uneasy ending. It's not the full circle resolution that we hope for. It loops back into the intimacy, into dismissal, and into the shove. Um, and him repeating it shows you that this isn't just one relationship, it's that cyclical pattern that you were talking about, because it's the same height, it's the same fall, it's the same moment where love turns into gravity. And
yeah,
the track taken as a whole feels like exactly like falling in love. There's a complete surrender, there's speed, there's a complete loss of control, and then there's flashbacks that fire back too fast to process, and then that abrupt stopped, that resolution that doesn't feel complete. So Sewer isn't just using falling as a metaphor for heartbreak, he's collapsing love, trust, danger, and memory into the same sensation. And to me, that's why the song 170 Yards by Sewerperson doesn't just feel like a story. It feels like falling in love. It feels like a drop. And it feels like a free fall that never ends.
damn, that is such a good way to put it. Fuck. I do agree a lot with that, because it's very true that where we see the song start off talking about a lot of the initial reactions to relationships, and kind of his value of importance for love, and the ways in which he um the value which he places upon love in his life, and how it almost always ends up being his driving force, not only for living, but for creating.
Yeah.
Whether that be love for another person, love for something, or just love for music.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that he does in life is driven by love. And so ending with, like, and I'm falling 170 yards, he's like, no matter what, I'm still gonna end up I will always end up falling back into love with something. I think it's such a very good way of ending it, especially when you consider it. Like you said, like
Wow.
he always, no matter what, reiterates the chorus on purpose if he's going to do it, and it's always to symbolize something here. And so once again, here it serves to cement Miles's recognition that though this specific cycle may have ended, over time it will still continue to be perpetuated with others that come after and other versions of himself that come after.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice that even despite this knowledge, his efforts are and always will be never ending, because he still to this day seems to strive to hope that next time will be different in some capacity. And while it's scary, it's nothing if not unequivocally the core of his music and the core of who he is as a person. And I think ending on that note is it's so perfect.
Damn. Well,
I don't. I was gonna say I don't know if you have anything written for the sample at the end, the
No.
outro sample.
I got
But I had
nothing.
a little bit. I had a little bit of something.
Okay.
And obviously, like the genius transcription for this is unfinished because the second line is like it's so muffled and muddied. I've been trying to figure it out since I heard it. To no avail. But I will get it. I will get it one day. But this outro sample, while it is incomplete, it echoes a lot of the same sentiment like within the track, and it also further echoes his dedication to trying to ultimately break the cycle.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much he comes back to it, he still ultimately does want to break free from it and escape this place in which he becomes emotionally destitute. It's only a small sample, and yet it really does wonders to emphasize the impact of the lyrics in such a fulfilling way. And when listening to this song, the intro sample and the outro sample serve as checkpoints between the problem and the solution, and everything that comes after this in the future marks the journey to achieving that solution.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I'm happy I brought so long for this breakdown right here.
I'm happy you did too, bro. This song's incredible.
You shitting me, bro. It was a plan right from the start. As soon as we started going back to back with the messages, bro, I was like, we're
Thanks.
doing an episode on this no matter when it takes place.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, you got anything else, bro?
No, I think I got everything on that. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm happy we got to do this, bro. I've been very excited.
facts. It took us long enough. Song came out what, a month ago at this point. We've had jam-packed schedule though, so you know, we've been pumping content out and doing stuff, listening parties, everything. I hope everybody enjoyed all the Christmas events, the giveaways we had, even if it was just the listening party. No matter what, I hope everybody enjoyed that. I hope everybody liked this episode. I want to give a special thanks to Sil, the homie, coming through once again, giving his analytical side of things. And I think it's very, very funny that we have our resident analytical host, and then next week we're gonna have the underground analytical doctor of the scene, Mel Maj, here for an interview. So January 8th, come tune in 9 p.m. Eastern time for the Mel Maj interview on Conversations in the Sewer. That'll be episode 24. This was episode 23. We don't have a name for it yet. I'm gonna come up with something clever to put on the flyer, and I'm honestly not gonna trim any of this recording because this was super fun and super natural. So I think they're gonna appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
You know, like I'm not trimming nothing in this. So like this is just going up dead ass. But
Fuck yeah.
a few things to touch base on before I press this switch screen button and play the outro songs, which both of the outro songs tonight are produced by Tied for Silver. Shout out to Tied for Silver. Congratulations on the placements on the new album. But first, artist submissions. As always, artist submissions are always open in our description and in the Instagram bio. There's a link to the artist submission form. Please submit your music, your grandpa's music, your grandma's music, your cousin's music, your sister's music, anybody's music, as long as we don't get copyrighted, because if we get copyrighted, I will trim your audio out and I will not feel bad. If you go back to that listening party, there are 2 songs that are trimmed out, and I do not feel bad for trimming your songs out because you copyright claimed me, and I'm not monetized yet, and I'll be damned if somebody stops me from getting monetized on this channel when we're ready. Anyways, artist submissions are open. Sill's Otherland submissions, once again, are always open. There's prompts that you can choose to get your story started. There's plenty, like 10 songs, maybe it's 10 or 11 songs if you count the intro as stuff and material to use to get your story started. It can be either following the line and the story that we got in the album, or you can make your own story. There's no right or wrong submission for that. You're not dumb if you have a silly story, and you're not God if you have an amazing novel worth a novel worth story that we should print for the New York Times bestseller. This is something just for fun, to give us material to talk about, to give chat something to interact with that's more than just the music that was posted and said out now. And that's not a diss to the artists who post and just say out now, because that works for some of y'all like Sewerperson, but a lot of people it doesn't. So I just want it to be, there's more substance to the music than it just being posted, and that's the whole point of this podcast. Get involved, put a submission through. The question of the week for this week is, what is a song lyric that stuck with you and has applied to your life? Any song lyric. What is a song lyric that stuck with you and has applied to your life? Once again, join us January 8th at 9 p.m. EST for the Mel Maj interview. Be there or be square. That is a huge moment for the underground. Mel Maj is literally the most requested guest for this podcast. Carter was a close second, but Mel Maj is every time I go in his chat, or every time he pops in this chat, everybody is always like, he needs to come on. So we made it happen. I reached out. I had to push it back a little because I'm doing something for New Year's, but he was very, very happy just to be included in this. And I think not only starting the wind down of season 1, but opening 2026 with him as the first interviewee guest is dope. And it's very special, and I hope everybody comes through for that. I haven't came up with any questions yet, but I'm going to ask all of the hosts to come up with a question for Mal. Jesus Christ. Because he's important. So I want everybody to at least get one question in. It's going to be a very fun episode. He does lives every single Monday. Go catch it next Monday before we go live on Thursday with him. Thank you to Sill. Sill, you got anything to say before I play these songs and get out of here?
I just want to echo the same sentiment. You know, once again, this has been an incredible end to the year, and it's going to be an incredible start to the year. And much like I said in the video that we played on the Christmas listening party, just happy holidays, everyone. I hope everyone has as good of a new year as we're going to have. It's going to be beautiful.
Facts. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We love you from Conversations in the Sewer. Here's a smile, and then this song that's being played is called Pride Will Kill Him from Forget Me Not 2, produced by Tied for Silver and Jupiter by Sewerperson. Love you guys. Oh wait, it's messed up. That's embarrassing.
That's funny as fuck, bro.
It's good, I'll fix it right now. That was almost smooth. That was almost really smooth, so.
For real.
Alright, here we go. Word, bro.
Word.
Somebody drug me and get me drinking right. And oh, you love this fame life, I know it get you high. I promise you get back on who you fucked it, now you cry. I promise you get hairy when you up alone at night. I promise I'll be laughing at you struggle with this bike. And me and all my friends will get together and watch you ride. I can't fucking help you, man, you curb me when I try. Ask that bitch beside you if she love you or the ride. I guarantee you she lies, I guarantee you cold. I left some tools for you out back, a footstool and a rope. Just make it so I'm quick, man, you a fucking joke. I know way too much, I guess some shit I didn't know. You not Ocean Creek without no patty, you lost your boat. Me and all my guys should knock you out, we catching votes. Once you get high quick, I promise you nowhere to go. In my mouth up to the sky.
I love you, chat.
I make it by.
Love you, chat.
Yup. Love you guys for real.
For real. This last one, very good track. I can't say my favorite yet. I have to listen. To be honest, I have to listen to the album probably 3 or 4 more times before I can validly say that one of these is my favorite. I can tell you right now there's 3 or 4 that I'm fighting between for my favorite. But I haven't had the time to dissect this album just because my life's been so crazy. But this is Denver, produced by Tied for Silver and Sorrowbringer. Shout out to Sil.
Shout out to Dev, bro. And shout out to all y'all too.
Shout out to Sil. Hey, hey. Okay. 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 Okay.
Sewer. It's how you don't fear me. Moonlight, it gets scary. Come outside like Erie. No one out here gon' hear me. Yeah, I've been on time since April. I'll call you if I'm able. Sticks, I don't get no cable. That's where they from Green Gables. Bitch came through the birdhouse. So the front door and let the cuss out. She's gon' swap her shirt out. I just keep burning this earth out. I so nice, I met you. I took a minute to steady myself, then I caught me a flight to the venue. Touching, I took me a sensu. I got some gun, cause it's my clear coat. I got some throwing it out. I dress some ass in these blurry souls. I guess I'm wearing them out. Where is she not? She hands her toes. She really holding you down, baby. You got a body I see not vote, but you got an nasty smile, baby. It's how you don't fear me. Moonlight, it gets scary. Come outside like Erie. No one out here gon' hear me, yeah. I've been on time since April. I'll call you if I'm able. Sticks, I don't get no cable. That's where they from Green Gables. I could've told you, shit, I could've showed you. Everything he got to work for him. I'm 2040. I got something like my pocket, 10 in a right, 120 on top of it. Yeah, I got some usual problems, nothing too crazy, you know I'm honest. You keep on talking that nonsense, I cannot take it on changing the topic. Yeah, cause you think I'm living in God. Girl, you been on, you gotta stop it. You get it sloppy, what's in the menu? Yeah, I took an hour to setting myself, then I caught me a flight to the venue. Touching, I took me a sensu. I'm brand new.
Sewer.
Bro, the Stewart tag always goes so fucking hard.
And that, episode 23, Conversations in the Sewer, the podcast from the people who built the community, for those who live in it. Have a good night, guys. And Happy New Year. Bye. Bye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.